one of my missions became when I decided to leave that side of the world, the nonprofit world, is how do I make sure that I help people? How do I make sure that I get home ownership into whatever communities are, whether, for me, I do a lot in the Black community, but the Latino community, the white community, it doesn't matter what it is to me, is how do we express home ownership? And so.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Loan Officer Growth, the podcast that helps loan officers grow their business and increase their success and have more freedom. Love it. I got an awesome guy on today, Brian Arnold. Brian, you are in Aurora, Colorado, right?
I am.
And you run a brokerage with Mpire Financial, correct?
I do. Absolutely. Yes.
Cool. And then you do so much more, man. There's like so much for us to talk about. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about it yourself, how you got started?
All right. Well, super excited about thank you for having me on your podcast, Richard. As we've gotten to know each other, just, the things that we can do to be able to help folks. And that's what I see that in your heart. I see that in my heart. As we go out and we think about lending, and we think about generational wealth, and we think about, what home ownership means to so many people. And so, just excited about the things that I get to do. I think about my past, between 2000 and 2008, I had in California, I had a mortgage brokerage there at the same time, and it just fell apart, at 2008 when everything hit. And so I was from Colorado. So I came back to Colorado. About 12 years ago, I worked in homeless services. So I was working with folks experiencing homelessness, trying to find housing. And so I learned that end of housing in a big way, just realizing that, once we get to that spot, it's so hard to find housing. It's so hard to get folks there. And there was one common denominator in almost all of them, is their childhoods and what they learned about mortgages and not having home ownership and going from apartment to apartment to apartment. And so, one of my missions became when I decided to leave that side of the world, the nonprofit world, is how do I make sure that I help people? How do I make sure that I get home ownership into whatever communities are, whether, for me, I do a lot in the Black community, but the Latino community, the white community, it doesn't matter what it is to me, is how do we express home ownership? And so about right before the pandemic, my mom, she needed a reverse mortgage. I knew about them from the time that I did it. And she was saying, Brian, I just don't have enough money to pay for my my gutters and my trees and all this kind of stuff. And I was looking at the time saying, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And so we did that. And then I called AAG, right? The Tom Selleck line, what everybody calls, right? And, I said, but I want a personal agent. I don't want to do this over the phone. And they sent, an agent over, which was this amazing lady named Kathy Nickerson. And she sat down with my mom and she started going over what it would take to do a reverse mortgage. I'm sitting here watching her going, I could do this. This is something I remember how to do. And you're making a difference and you're making an impact and you're taking somebody where they're struggling with their income that they have. And then saying, no, we're going to be able to help you. And then, to have my mom have a line of credit, over $100,000 in a line of credit that now she can use for whatever. She hates asking my sister and I for money, right? She wants to be independent. She's 79 years old now. And she now has that line of credit that she can use for whatever she wants, whenever she wants. If it's the gutters, it's the gutters. If it's the roof, it's the roof, whatever it is. I think this week there was a guy that they messed up her electrical panel or something like that. So she's getting a new electrical panel. It wasn't like, where am I going to get the money for electrical panel? It was,
right.
Oh, no problem. I'll just call up, my reverse mortgage folks and say, hey, let me get this out. And so that kind of started me down the journey of, okay, so if I can do this, I told Kathy, I said, I want to get going. I want to start. What do I need to do? They told me I need to get licensed. Back in the 2000s, I had to have a real estate license, but now I had to have there's a mortgage MLO license. And so I did that. They said, well, how long will it take you? I said, well, how fast could I do it? So within 7 days, I went and took the test and, took the classes and did all that and got my license. And then I started my journey in reverse mortgages. I did have this vision that I was going to hire a whole bunch of people from the Black community that would become agents. AAG said, yes, we want you to do that. That is our mission. That is our goal. So I put this ad out on the radio, and I just said, if you're looking to break into this business, if you're looking to figure out how to create some wealth, come see me. I had 180 people that responded to that radio ad. So I had, I'm making the calls, figure out some for real, some that are not. I was going to probably have 80 show up to an event. And then AEG said, like literally hours before the event, "Oh, we're not ready for this. You can't do this." And I'm like, what? I have 8 people showing up that are getting ready that I'm, I figured I'll get 10 agents out of that in recruiting and stuff. And they said, "No, you can't do it." So needless to say, I lasted with AG for about 3 more months after that. And then, I moved on, and now I found a home over at Mpire, and, using that, I got involved with the mortgage marketing animals and, really learning. That's where I met you. I think we were in Puerto Rico the first time I met you, and, just enjoying this process of, whether it's down payment assistance programs. I do a lot of reverse mortgages, and then I have a, podcast that I created called the Mile High Real Estate Spotlight Podcast, where I talk with agents. And so we just have this ecosystem now. It's taken, a couple of years now that I've been doing it and seem to be enjoying it. Like you said, I do a whole bunch of other stuff. I have a initiative called Journey to Freedom. I have what else am I just wrote a book. So the book is called There Is No Tiger. It'll come out in a couple of weeks, and it's based on overcoming overthinking and controlling anxiety. So for all the people who get stuck overthinking stuff, and just, as I listen to like the breakfast call every single morning, I'm going, there's some folks that are stuck because they're just overthinking something that's so simple, right? Pick up the phone and call and say hello. Well, what if I say hello, hello, hello? Well, maybe I should say hello, maybe hello. So that is kind of my world. I have, how many kids? I have 8 kids. I have 13 grandkids. My son is getting ready to get remarried, and his new wife has 3 children already. So we'll jump from 13 to 16 grandkids here in the next, probably in the next 6 months. And so we're already starting to count them on. So they are a joy of my life. And amazing wife who has an embroidery business here in town, and it is just blowing up right now. She's getting orders after orders after orders, which is great. So we stay busy.
Yes. So you were telling me earlier you have 3 different podcasts, right? Tell us a little bit about your podcast. I know one is for you interview real estate agents, right? And so tell us about that and your
absolutely.
Thoughts behind that.
As I was beginning and I was making these phone calls and I was trying to get it in front of real estate agents, on the real estate one. And I was struggling. I really was. I would call them and they say, "Well, you're like the 100th person who's called me this week. And I don't want to sit down with you." And so I wanted to say, how could I add value? How could I add value to what you're doing? In the real. And so, I was able to get a list from you of agents that were in the area and that were doing stuff because, when you do a podcast, and for those of you who are thinking about doing a podcast, or those of you who one of the hardest things is when somebody is not busy or somebody's not doing a lot of activity, it's really hard to ask them questions about what they're doing because the integrity of not being able to answer because they're really not getting anything done. So having agents that are doing stuff, that are creating transaction, I was able to, start those calls. And so I, literally, I use my virtual assistant and we call up and we'd say, "Hey, I would like for you to be on my podcast." And it just started blooming and going in. And so I literally get to ask, real estate agents on a, weekly basis. I try to do a couple a week. We're over 100 episodes now where we just say, "Hey, what is it that you do that's special?" And I'm having people who are calling me, asking me if they can be on the podcast, which is really cool. And I interview different, not just real estate agents. Well, I had a guy that I just interviewed, a real estate agent was a real estate agent. Now he's doing commercial warehouse buildings. And so he was talking about that whole niche of the investment and not having to be the landlord. And it was a really unique one. I had a guy who did a program where he's doing investment for people who are doing first-time home buyers, where they buy the house first, and then the person has fractional ownership in it for the first 4 or 5 years. And then as soon as that's done, it's over. And so, and then I have AB&B folks. I have just, your regular real estate agents who, are just making things happen here in the Denver metro area and some in Arizona. And we just keep bouncing off. The second podcast I have is called The Black Wealth Experience. And the Black Wealth Experience is just designed for just helping our community, the community that I'm a big part of. How do we get into homeownership? What is the generational wealth process? I do living trust as well. And so, when we're talking about generational wealth and moving things over, like we did a whole podcast on a lady that I did where we did a reverse mortgage. Her house was worth about 600 and something. We took $200,000 out, 80,000 went to home repairs. And then she took the other 120,000, split it three ways, and gave it to three grandkids at $40,000 a pop to help for down payment so they could get houses. So we went from one house, the family having one house, which was the matriarch of the family, who was saying, okay, she's 72, if she dies in 20 years, if she dies in that 20 years, she gets to watch 20 years of equity on the grandkids' homes. So that was fun. I brought on, I'm a lender and, I work for, but at the same time, there are a whole bunch of loans that I can't do, or that I'm not the direct person that should be doing them. Like Vetra Bank is one of them that we interviewed that has a great loan that is, for $1,000, somebody can get into a home, and they, it's happening at the bank, and the qualifications are a little bit different. Things that I can't take on. Can I do a down payment assistance program? Absolutely. Is it going to cost $1,000? Probably not, right? And so for the right borrower, so I brought in all these different programs. There's a program in town called the Deerfield Fund, which is $40,000 in down payment assistance that somebody can get. They can only use, commercial banks for the three different loans. The one I did do was the Metro DPA, but I have all these lenders come on and talk about what they're doing and what it means for home ownership as the beginning. And so, yeah, I think we're over 70 episodes on that podcast as well. I'm going to do one today with a young lady who is, I did the loan for her first house ever. She grew up here in the projects in Denver. She didn't believe, a year ago, she didn't think a house was possible or home ownership was possible. Wow. She takes care of a disabled child at home. That's her income. She was arguing with the apartment manager all the time. It took us, I found one of the local real estate agents that I had done a podcast on, and we worked for 3 or 4 months finding the exact right house. And she looked at a lot of houses. But to see the joy in her face and the crying and the jubilation and everything else from the time that she got to move into her house. And so, she talked about putting a garden together, and so, that's what she's talking about now, and using her yard and her shed and all that kind of stuff. So that was super cool to be able to do that. And then the third podcast that I do is called Journey to Freedom. And that one is exclusively for Black men. I was at a seminar where I was learning about trust. A guy named David Horsager does a thing on trust where everything begins and starts and adds with trust. And I go to the seminar, and it's amazing, the issues and how do we start our lives thinking about trust. And so I look around the room, and there are 500 people in the room, all getting this incredible information. And there's only 30 folks that are Black or people of color, and I'm like, there's something missing in here. So what am I going to do when I get back home to perpetuate what I've learned? So I went through his classes and became a certified trust, advisor. And I started the podcast as a result of it, called Journey to Freedom. And it literally, as we talk about trust, health, identity, faith, and finances on this podcast, as well as I'm starting some coaching and starting, some boot camps and all that kind of stuff, all around how do we journey now that we're in this spot, this opportunity in time where there's plenty of opportunities for folks to start with owning homes. But just, for Black men, identity has been something that we've struggled with. And it's a lot of it is because of our history, because, this country has not been the best place in the world for Black men for the last 300 years, 400 years, whatever it is. But that doesn't mean that's not the reason that we're not moving forward. And so journeying into that, where society took Black men out of homes back in the, in the Lyndon Johnson, era, where, where, the welfare, and they separated homes and separated us away from families. And then what it means to be a dad, what it means to be, a community member. What does it mean, in our identity when we show up at a grocery store? We see, especially now with all the race stuff that has been going on in society, what happens when I get pulled over, or how do I act? Those are thoughts that go through our minds almost first all the time. So how do we combat that? How do we talk about that? And so this year I'm interviewing 100 Black men, and they're an hour piece. So it's going to be,
Wow.
whatever it is, 100 hours of just conversations with people who've broken that barrier, who are not letting those items that are in our past stop us from moving into our future. So that's that third podcast that we're doing. I don't know what the fourth one's going to be or what it's going to be, but I am staying so busy and just loving every moment of it as we do it.
So you're very busy. So what is let's just say Monday. What does a Monday look like? You get up, how does that day look? How do you structure that?
Well, Mondays are my mortgage Mondays. So that is when I concentrate 100% on my mortgage business. And one of the things, of all the folks that I've done podcasts with, this is such a fun thing. I send a message out to each and every single one of them that says, that, hey, you're spectacular, you're wonderful, you're great, you're doing some amazing things. I'm excited to work with you. What can we do? How can I help you? So I do 65 of those messages, which takes almost 2.5 hours to go through. And they're only 30-second messages because I know, I'm surprised that they even listen to all 30 of them. But I want them to know that I'm thinking of them, that they are, people that we expect. And I get a lot of answers back that thank you for doing it. That made my day. That made my week. As I'm working through. And so that's probably one of the first things I do. Well, I start out with my morning 3 miles. So I get up every morning and I walk 3 miles, as the dawn breaks, and that's my chance to listen to like podcasts, and I listen to, different speakers. I listen to, I start, the Breakfast Club is during that time. So I listen to the Breakfast Club. And so not only am I getting my exercise in, but I'm working on my brain. I'm working on my mind. So that's before I send out all those messages that I do. Then I go through my pipeline and I start looking to see, okay, what do I got to do? Fortunately, I have a really good team right now. So not only do I have my assistant who's setting up my podcast, and I talk to her every day, but I have, a loan officer assistant that kind of makes sure that all the conditions and all the things that are on our loans are being done and taken care of. So I asked him, I said, is there anybody I need to talk to today? Is there anybody I need to take care of today? What do I need to do? And then I start calling individually on some of the different, even real estate. I'll probably call them live on some of them that, that I think might have deals or things that, I can ask about doing that stuff. We have a granddaughter who shows up. And so we got the granddaughter who she's 2 now. So she's all over the place, but she does really well of, in and out and interacting, and check to see what my wife's doing. And then, for right now, till the next 3 weeks, I am coaching. I can't seem to get away from coaching track. I've been coaching track for 36 years. I've coached Olympians. I've coached, high school champions and that kind of stuff. And I said, I don't have time to coach. And I said, can you just come in 2 days a week? Can you just come here? So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I end up running over to track practice, and I do officiating, that kind of stuff on there. So that's that stuff where my mind just is happy because, I'm doing something that's not thinking of a solution, right? Because I think my job is to solve problems, and right. So I spend most of my day solving problems. I try not to react to as much as I can, but that never stops. You get to be proactive whenever it's possible. What's going to happen that I need to get on top of right now, and so I do that. And so, that ends up, Monday nights I do I've been doing a Bible study at church. And so I go to church at Elevation Church. It's in North Carolina. And so I do online church, and then I have a Bible study that is international. So I have folks from all over the country that are all the country and countries. I got some people in South Africa, India, that kind of stuff that show up, and we do an hour Bible study based on the sermon from the day before. So that kind of ends my Monday night, and then I go to sleep and then wake up the next morning and do it again. So,
man, you are busy. So these messages that you send, is that to realtors? Is that to past clients? Is it to everybody?
It's just to realtors. That one is.
Oh, realtors. Okay.
That is to realtors. So that's the message that go out every now and then. I'll send some to the clients. that'll be like on Tuesdays,
Right.
where I'll call some of the clients, or I guess Wednesdays on our database day, where I'll just call them. And sometimes I'll leave, I'll just send a message. Hey, how you doing? That one is more of a live call more times, but sometimes I just send a video message as well. As I try to do all my podcasts on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. That's how I try to schedule them, so that's kind of marked off. And so my assistant Lex schedules most of all my podcasts during that time. And then so that gives me time to call, other folks during the day on the mornings and that kind of stuff to just, get folks going. And
Right.
like I said, I finished my book now. And so now I'm working on some speaking engagements as well as some, coaching stuff. So I'm going to do a boot camp for the Journey to Freedom folks in August. So whatever I have to do to continue to make that happen. And then every now and then, like UWM will ask me, hey, can you come out and bring some realtors? So that's something that I'm pretty excited about. I'm going to bring my first set of realtors. They're actually bringing them out and letting them go through the experience of United Wholesale Mortgage and what they do. It's hard though to take off, because when I fly from here to Detroit, they want me to come in on Monday, and if the class is Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it ends Wednesday evening, then I come back Thursday. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Since I work from home, so I can work remotely too, but I can't work while I'm in classes, right? When I'm learning stuff. And so it takes up the week pretty fast when you go out there, you travel to places, and I'm sure as well, you can lose a lot of time trying to do. I think the last Freedom Club, or no, it was the boot camp that I was at, I was doing podcasts from like right outside the thing, trying to just get one in. That was beautiful in Florida, and sitting where we were across from the beach, but Tampa, I think we were in. But just sitting outside, I did a whole podcast for a lady who does mountain houses. And so that went really well. But yeah, trying to fit all that in while you're traveling, can be challenging, but it's still good. There's still time, right? There's plenty of time in the day if you're not watching TV and not doing stuff. There's all kind of stuff to get stuff done when you're on a mission. I think I'm on a mission right now. I just turned 59 and say, okay, whatever that timeline that I have left now, what is that going to look like? And so, how's God going to use me in the next 10 years is super important to me. So
what do you love most about what you do?
People, interactions, and relationships. The more people I meet, and then there's something I have a lady that I'm coaching right now, and we went through some things, and she does financial services, and her business just since we started coaching, just a few little tweaks, and so we have this relationship, and we're meeting at Panera Bread, every week. And she's just discouraged. Like, they're not helping me. We're not getting his stuff done. And we just a couple of tweaks and a couple of ways that she could talk to somebody. And then they come back and she's like, guess what? I just did 5 pieces of business last week. I haven't done 5 pieces of business all year. And to be so excited. And so, there's something about that when you can help somebody move from, or the little young lady that we did the DPA program for, that gets to move into a house, or the real estate agent who has more listings or that kind of stuff. When you're able to help people change their lives and change who they are and change their circumstances, I don't think there's any more joy in the world than doing that. At least that's how the other part of the joy is just the fun of having family. I don't know how people, there's a lot of folks that they don't get the excitement of taking 30 people to San Diego last year in campground with all of our kids and grandkids, and that kind of stuff is just, it's super enjoyable.
That's a huge family.
It is, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger as, like I said, I have 3 kids who don't have any kids yet. So
oh wow.
Yeah. So we're just moving it forward.
That is awesome, man. I can't believe how quick time flew by. I do have a quick question going back to doing the podcast with qualified realtors. So realtors that are actually doing business. What is, I'm assuming you build the relationship by doing the podcast. You're kind of edifying them and the business they're doing and how well they're succeeding. And then do you grow that relationship from there and they start sending you business, or what does that look like?
Absolutely. And so I love that you asked that question, because the whole goal of the initial, and one thing about doing a podcast is there is a relationship built. I'm getting to know them very well because I'm asking the questions. What's your superpower? What makes you an exceptional agent? The things they're not going to get on YouTube and say, hey, I am an exceptional agent because I do this and this and this, right? It's actually a really symbiotic relationship because I'm able to, ask them those really deep questions. Then after that, then I'm spending time on the weekly. So I'm sending them that message every week. Then I'm also sending them messages of, content stuff. This is what you can do. This is, something that's happened. This might be a program. Hey, I'm having a seminar on reverse mortgages next week. Would you like to join? Hey, I'm doing some stuff on living trust next week. Would you like to join? And then the MoveTube. So we're using MoveTube. So now I'm calling them all MoveTube. How can I help you set up your MoveTube? So that you can, put, list your listings and put them on there. So I'm always, like, every week I have eight emails that go out for the first 8 weeks. On the 5th week, I send them a T-shirt that says you're special. You got a podcast. It has the barcode on the back. They click the barcode. It goes to their podcast that goes there. So week 5, they all get a T-shirt. And then from there, it's just, that constant relationship, that where we're talking. I have one that's, she's an investor. So we're talking about doing some investing in other states because Colorado is so expensive right now. So yeah, whatever I can do to, continue to foster, stay top of mind, stay in there, continue to send them good content. Whenever I've done a podcast or I do something on TV or something like that, I send that out to them. And then I ask them, hey, do you got any business that you would love to send my way right now? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have their other lenders. Hey, I do reverse mortgages. Hey, I do down payment assistance. I figure if I just got one from all 75 of them in a year, then I'm doing pretty good, right? And so I'm not asking for all their business. I'm not asking to take away from their, some of them are exclusively using me. And some of them, they use other folks and, but I'm still giving whatever I possibly can. Some call me just for information. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So happy to do that, because that relationship, I think, will last over time, over the next 3 years. I haven't set it up where I need you, what they call it commission breath, right? I need you to give me something right this minute. Or I'm going to die. And so I don't ever call as a desperate agent trying to get business. I call as, hey, I'm a friend, I'm a colleague, I'm a person who wants to help your business grow. And by doing that, they send me business. They refer me to people with all the other stuff that I've done too. So
very cool. So last question, what words of encouragement do you have for loan officers right now in this current times we're in?
Gosh, here's what I say. You can do this. I say this at my podcast. You can do this. You deserve this. Let others help you. If you're out here on the island and you're doing it by yourself and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to make a difference or make a dent. The thing that I think a lot of us don't realize is how important coaching is. Coaching is where there's a blind spot that you don't have and you don't know what to do because you don't know what you don't know. And if you can have somebody be able to look at it from the outside and say, okay, I can see exactly what you're doing. You're just talking and the things that you're saying are just hurting you. If it's just something as simple as that, get that because you deserve this. This is one of the greatest industries that's out there that allows you to be able to make an income. And I think so many people quit so early. They give up on it. They give up on their dreams. They give up on that thing. And you just have to say to yourself, it's possible. Every single day, it's possible, it's possible, it's possible. As you get up, that you say, hey, I can make this happen. Don't give up yet, but don't forsake or don't get rid of that coaching element. No matter how you do, I'm not worried about how you do. I'm just saying, as long as you do it, is find somebody else to be accountable to. Find somebody else that can walk you through the steps. Find somebody else that you can go on this journey with, because it is a lonely journey if you try to do it by yourself.
True. Very true. All right, man. It has been great having you on. I appreciate you dearly.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me on, Richard. Just to see you expand and grow and do these podcasts. I listen to them when you send them out. So keep up the great work. You're doing amazing work and you're helping people in great ways. So thank you again for letting me be on.
Thank you. Appreciate you.